25% of what it already spends.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
$2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America.
First call up for Michael Chertoff, St. Petersburg, Florida. William, Independent Line. Hi.
Hello. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
You mentioned the September 10th, 2001 mindset. That made me nervous, so I think it should be September 9th. I was wondering if the missing $2 trillion plus that Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld reported on September 10th, 2001, where those trillions went. Did you all ever find it?
I have to say, I must have missed that news report about the missing trillions.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
I have to say, I must have missed that news report about the missing trillions.
World Trade Center 7 had always been considered the starting point for rebuilding. Located north of the slurry wall, 7 had been cleared faster than the rest of the site, and there had been no bodies to recover. Pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed, 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
And 1,000 engineers and architects from 47 different cities today called for a new independent investigation into 9/11. The group is Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, founded by an architect from San Francisco. The group says it has new evidence suggesting that explosives, not planes alone, brought down the 2 World Trade Center towers and a third 47-story skyscraper on that fateful day, September 2001. The group says it has explosive forensic evidence that was omitted from the official reports on the attack. Representatives of the group based in Victoria, who have signed a petition demanding a new investigation, say the fire alone could not have brought down the buildings, particularly World Trade Center Tower number 7.
There was no plane hitting that building, and there was no proper investigation or explanation given why that building also fell in the fashion it did. It basically collapsed at free fall speed. That's not possible. That can only happen if you remove all the core columns at the right moment in a controlled demolition fashion, as we've seen on TV.
The group says, given that the buildings were in partial or full free fall during the destruction, it suggests or points directly to expertly placed explosives. It also points to reports that first responders saw flashes and heard bangs at the onset of the destruction, and that the explosive ejections of building material can be seen 20 to 40 stories below the collapsing portion of the World Trade Center towers. For more information on this group, you can find out more at their website at ae911truth.org.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you for your courage and for your willingness to reconsider the very difficult subject of 9/11 and the destruction of the World Trade Center with its staggering loss of life. This effort of the 9/11 Truth movement has proven to so many to be extremely difficult. Not so difficult in terms of the evidence and reaching conclusions, though, but difficult in terms of the implications of those conclusions. And finding people who are open-minded enough, like yourselves, to be willing to spend the time and re-examine the facts about the destruction of these high-rises and the subsequent investigations. Our commitment to you tonight is to speak the truth and to leave you with extremely valuable science-based information. But please, don't believe us. We're not looking for believers. We implore you, check out every fact that you hear tonight, because it's extremely important that we know the whole truth about this event.
So what happened in the North Tower? Ask Willie Rodriguez. Willie, a janitor who worked in the World Trade Center for 20 years, was in sub-level 1 when the North Tower was hit.
And all of a sudden we hear boom! I thought it was a generator that blew up on the basement. And I said to myself, oh my God, I think it's a generator. And I was going to verbalize it. When I finished saying that in my mind, I hear boom! Right on the top, pretty far away. So it was a difference between coming from the basement and coming from the top. And that's, everybody started screaming. And a person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. He got his hand extended, and all the skin was pulled from his under his arm, all the way to the top of the fingertips, and he was hanging on both arms. Hanging and hanging. And then I look at his face, and he was missing parts on his face. And I said, what happened? What happened? And he said, the elevators, the elevators.
Ginny Carr was attending a business meeting on the 36th floor of One Liberty Plaza, across the street from the World Trade Center, and caught the entire first attack on tape.
It sounded like something crashed.
The windows in the lobby of the North Tower were blown out, and marble panels were blown off of the walls.
And as we were coming out, we passed the lobby. There was no lobby. So I believe the bomb hit the lobby first, and a couple of seconds then the first plane hit.
So we're standing there in the lobby, we're getting all together. All of a sudden, we hear... I look down to my right, and the elevators exploded, something out of like a Bruce Willis Die Hard movie. People just come running out of the elevators, on fire, fireball. I mean, it was like, what is going on here? Something's up here. I mean, the plane's up there, now there's fire down here. People run around all on fire. This is crazy. Every window in the lobby to be exploded. I mean, them windows were like as thick as spaghetti. They were 2-3 inch glasses, you know, come on. They exploded out of the lobby, you know, something, it wasn't from the jet fuel. No way. The elevators exploded. They were down from the lobby. The lobby was over here. That should never have happened. Something would happen there, and that wasn't. We came down. It looked like a bomb went off in the lobby. There was no fire. It just looked like a bomb went off.
And I heard rumbling, and we all started running away from it. The glass blew out and threw me onto the sidewalk, and I couldn't see for 20 seconds.
It was like holy hell coming down upstairs. And then when we finally got to the bottom, we were coming out on the mezzanine level there, and then another explosion came right from it, just everyone flying.
We stuck on the stairs for a while. We finally got down to the lobby. Then we get to the lobby, it was this big explosion.
So I was real lucky. I don't know what happened to the people behind me when that blast occurred.
Yes, I was right there. I was down in the basement. Came down. All of a sudden, the elevator blew up. Smoke. I dragged the guy out. His skin was hanging off, and I dragged him out, and I helped him out to the ambulance.
Just get out of the tunnel, and it blew.
The subway tunnel?
Yeah.
This thing shook, and I heard like an explosion.
From street level, as though it had exploded up, a giant rolling ball of flame, and the firefighters screamed, "Run!"
It was this blast of warm air. It wasn't hot. It was warm. And it picked me up and threw me up against the wall of the building that was...
You were picked up off the ground.
Physically picked up off the ground.
I remember an explosion. At that point, I got knocked out. I don't remember anything. Then I got up, and I looked out the window because the windows exploded, and the street below caved in. And at that point, there was like fireballs coming up.
We're having coffee in the World Trade Center when the first plane struck.
And all of a sudden it sounded like, I don't know where the subway is, but it sounded like a subway collision of bombs. And it was just pounding, boom, boom, boom. And I literally thought the subway had exploded. And
the ladies that are with me were in the World Trade Center in the first building and escaped through the lobby, where they report that they believe there was a bomb in the lobby.
And even the turnstile was burnt and was sticking up, and they just told us to run.
I heard the first explosion, and the elevator blew up.
And when I got up to the concourse level, it was just like, you know, like gunfire, and then just 3 big explosions.
At 10:30, I tried to leave the building, but as soon as I got outside, I heard a second explosion.
and another rumble, and more smoke, and more dust. I ran inside the buildings, the chandelier shook, and again, black smoke filled the air. Within another 5 minutes, we were covered again with more silt and more dust. And then a fire marshal came in and said we had to leave because if there was a third explosion, this building might not last.
There was a heavy-duty explosion.
And there's secondary explosions and then the subsequent collapses.
Bit of trouble right now maintaining our location because we just heard one more explosion.
There was another major explosion.
Do you know anything about those extra explosions we heard?
No, I do not.
Were they car bombs?
I have no idea, ma'am. We heard a very loud blast explosion. They were taking photographs and securing this area just prior to that huge explosion that we all heard and felt.
What's the one element that you think folks in Scarborough country will say, holy smokes, I didn't know that?
Well, I had asked your producer if you would play a clip of Building 7, for example.
We will. Here you go. Tell us what we're about to see.
Well, I can't see the clip, but what you're seeing is Building 7 was north of the World Trade Center site. It was damaged in the collapse of the North Tower on its south face. It was a 47-story tall, 570-foot tall building, and yet even the FEMA report in the investigation of the collapse of that building, again, was never hit by a plane, collapsed at 5:20 in the afternoon on September 11th.
But it was in such close proximity to the Twin Towers. I mean,
Absolutely.
Surely it paid a price because it was...
Absolutely, Michael, it did. However, again, the NIST investigation said that the damage from the collapse of the North Tower took out structural columns on the south face. If you watch that clip, you can see, depending on the clip you're showing, whether or not the east penthouse begins the collapse.
Michael.
And yet, Michael, let me finish though. And yet, the building does not collapse to the south in the direction of the damage. It collapses straight down symmetrically in 6.6 seconds.
I got to move on because our time's limited.
And the whole time you hear him boom, 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 boom. So I think I know an explosion when I hear it. You know, I was real close to Building 7 when it fell down, and I don't know, but that didn't sound like just a building falling down to me while I was running away from it. There's a lot of eyewitness testimony down there hearing explosions. I didn't see any reason for that building to fall down the way it did. And a lot of guys should be saying the same thing.
The radio transmission from the Red Cross worker.
And then it was like another 2-3 seconds, you heard explosions. Like, boom! It's like a distinct sound. It's not like when the compression, like boom, 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 like floors that were dropping and collapsing. This was boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something. That, to me, I knew that was an explosion. There was no doubt in my mind.
And now this goes beyond witness testimony. They said there were no recordings.
Yeah, here's one of the guys. He can tell you I'm okay. All right. Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
Now again, they say there's no explosions. You be the judge.
Myth. The firefighters did not report explosions.
Now the 9/11 Commission had some of the firefighters come in, and the firefighters said they told them about the explosions. However, none of that made it into the 9/11 Commission report. So there's absolutely no witness reports of any explosions. So there's more than 118 of them who heard them. And originally they weren't going to document this, but the City Fire Commissioner Tom Von Essen, he wanted to preserve these accounts. And in the fire service, when we go to fires, there's a lot of times where there's just chaos, and we see one small part of that picture, and afterwards we'll have what's called a post-fire, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see videos and pictures and stuff, and like, oh yeah, that's what that noise was, that's what this was. So we come to a collective memory, and we work together at the fire, but we come up with a memory that is almost like one, because we're told all these different things, and we realize that we didn't see it, so we put it together that way. Well, this commissioner knew that. He didn't want to collect, as he quoted, to preserve the accounts before they became reshaped by a collective memory. So they didn't release these. It happened in 2001. They were collected from October to January, and it wasn't until the New York Times filed a Freedom of Information Act to get these, and so they finally got them published. So we didn't have them until August of 2005. So we just have come across these.
Richard Benasiski, FDNY. We were there, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then I just remember there was just an explosion. It seemed like on television they blow up these buildings. It seemed like it was going all the way around like a belt, all these explosions.
There were a lot of explosions through the elevator shafts, and people were blown right out of their clothes. I found their clothes, and they were just shredded. I found their sneakers. There were shoes everywhere. I walked through these piles, through all this gray dirt, and it's like I'm walking through them. The people, I know it's all that's left of them. That was Detective Jennifer Abramowitz, NYPD.
Edward Kachia, FDNY. As my officer and I were looking at the South Tower, it just gave. It actually gave at a lower floor, not the floor where the plane hit, because we originally had thought there was like an internal detonation of explosives because it went in succession. Boom, 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 boom. And then the tower came down.
That noise, it was a noise. Question, what did you hear? What did you see? Answer, it was a frigging noise. At first I thought it was... Do you ever see professional demolition when they set the charges on certain floors and then you hear pop, 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 pop? That's exactly what, because I thought it was that. When I heard that frigging noise, that's when I saw the building coming down.